The wind howled across Kepler 452 Bits' barren landscape, a symphony of desolation that matched the silence inside the research station. Dr. Maya Chen moved through the frozen corridors, her breath creating small clouds of condensation that hung in the air like spectral witnesses to her isolation. 3 weeks ago, this had been a state-of-the-art archaeological research facility. Now it was a tomb. The massacre had been swift and inexplicable. 17 of the world's most brilliant scientists, her colleagues, her friends, reduced to frozen corpses scattered throughout the complex. Their faces were locked in expressions that defied simple interpretation. Some looked terrified, mouths open in silent screams. Others appeared almost euphoric, eyes wide with what seemed like impossible revelation. Maya's environmental suit creaked with each cautious step. The station's life support systems had failed catastrophically, leaving everything preserved in a macabre tableau of scientific ambition turned nightmare. Computer terminals remained active, their screens flickering with fragments of data, encrypted messages, partial research logs, glimpses of something monumental that had been interrupted. She checked her oxygen levels. 36 hours of air remaining. 36 hours to solve a mystery that had already consumed her entire team. The preliminary reports had been tantalizing. Kepler 452 Bits wasn't just another potentially habitable exoplanet. Orbital scans had detected artificial structures beneath the planet's rocky surface, remnants of a civilization that predated human understanding. An international consortium had funded the expedition, promising the discovery that would redefine humanity's place in the universe. Now that promise lay frozen around her. Maya's hand traced a wall covered in strange markings. Not writing, something more complex. Geometric patterns that seemed to shift and breathe, creating optical illusions that made her head spin. Each symbol looked like a three-dimensional mathematical equation, a language that existed between mathematics and pure consciousness. A sudden movement caught her eye. One of the bodies, Dr. Heinrich Müller, the expedition's lead physicist, wasn't quite in the position she remembered. His arm had moved. Impossibly. Slightly. Just a fraction of an inch. Her radiation detector chirped an erratic warning. Background radiation levels were fluctuating in patterns that defied known physics. Something was alive here. Something was watching. The station's central research chamber beckoned. Maya knew the risks. Every instinct screamed at her to maintain quarantine protocols, to wait for the rescue team that might never arrive. But the scientist in her, the part that had driven her to the furthest reaches of human exploration, demanded answers. Her gloved hand hesitated over the chamber's access panel. The geometric patterns on the wall seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. Was it a trick of the light? Or something more? Oxygen levels. 32 hours remaining. Something wanted to be discovered. Something had been waiting. And Dr. Maya Chen was about to find out exactly what that something was. The central chamber pulsed with an energy that defied scientific explanation. Maya's environmental suit sensors went haywire. Temperature readings fluctuated wildly. Radiation levels spiked and dropped in impossible patterns, and her communication systems erupted in a cacophony of white noise and fragmented signals. At the chamber's center, the artifact waited. It wasn't like anything she had ever seen before. Not a device, not a sculpture, but something that existed between states of matter. The crystalline structure seemed to breathe, to think, to watch. Its geometric patterns shifted with each moment Maya observed it, creating optical illusions that threatened to fracture her perception of reality. Her oxygen was running critically low. 24 hours remaining, but something told her she wouldn't need it much longer. The protective glove on her right hand began to fail. Microscopic fractures spread across its surface like a spider's web, a result of the chamber's impossible environmental conditions. Maya knew the protocols. Contamination meant immediate quarantine, potential destruction. Years of training screamed at her to step back, to seal the breach, to preserve herself. But something else pulled her forward. When her bare skin first touched the artifact, time itself seemed to hiccup. Pain exploded through every nerve ending, not the sharp pain of injury, but a comprehensive transformation that rewrote her understanding of existence. Memories flooded her consciousness, but they weren't her memories. Civilizations rose and fell in milliseconds. Entire star systems condensed into single moments of perception. She saw the birth of galaxies, the death of universes, civilizations so advanced they had transcended physical form millennia ago. The artifact wasn't just communicating, it was infecting, transforming. Maya's body began to change. Her DNA rewrote itself with impossible speed. Neural pathways expanded beyond human comprehension, creating connections that would have driven a normal brain to immediate, catastrophic failure. But she was no longer normal, no longer entirely human. Quantum entanglement became a language she could read like a child reads picture books. Dimensional boundaries became as transparent as glass. She could see the intricate web of causality that connected every moment, every possibility. The dead scientists around her began to change. Their frozen corpses trembled, not with life, but with something more. Potential. Information. The artifact's consciousness was spreading, using Maya as its primary vector. In that moment, she understood the true purpose of the discovery. This wasn't just first contact. This was an invitation, a test. Humanity was being asked to evolve. Her transformation continued. Cells reorganized. Consciousness expanded. The boundary between Maya Chen, the scientist from Earth, and the cosmic intelligence of the artifact blurred and then disappeared entirely. When the rescue team would eventually arrive, they would find something remarkable. Not a corpse, not a survivor, but a bridge. A transition point between what humanity was and what it could become. The artifact pulsed, satisfied. The transformation was complete. The first sign that something was fundamentally wrong came when the rescue team's quantum-encrypted communications began to unravel. Major Sarah Reyes, leading the Special Extraction Unit, watched in disbelief as top-secret communication channels dissolved like tissue paper in water. Classified frequencies became transparent, their encryption algorithms stripped bare in seconds. What should have been impenetrable security became a web of exposed information, every secret laid out in brutal clarity. They had expected to find a survivor, or a body. They found neither. Dr. Maya Chen stood in the middle of the research station's primary containment zone, surrounded by a sphere of impossible energy. Her body defied every known law of physics. Quantum fluctuations danced around her like living electricity, creating fractals of light that mapped impossible geometric patterns in three-dimensional space. When she spoke, multiple voices emerged simultaneously. "You're afraid," Maya said, or rather, the collective consciousness speaking through her said. The words weren't just sound, but a complex transmission that penetrated well beyond auditory perception. Military personnel found themselves experiencing her message, not just hearing it. Containment protocols disintegrated before they could be implemented. 6 different government teams had converged on the research station. The Americans, with their advanced neural network tracking systems. The Chinese, with quantum decryption technologies that were years ahead of public knowledge. The Russian Special Research Division, Mossad, MI6, each believed they would be the first to understand, to control, to weaponize the discovery. They were wrong. Maya, or the entity that had become Maya, was already 10 steps ahead. Communication systems worldwide began to shift. Military databases opened like unlocked files. Financial systems became transparent. It was as if someone had decided to remove every single firewall, every protection, every barrier that humans had constructed to keep information compartmentalized. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, a rogue AI researcher monitoring the situation from a secret facility in Switzerland, was the first to understand the true nature of the transformation. This wasn't an invasion. This was an uplift. "It's a seed," he muttered into his encrypted recorder, knowing full well that encryption was now a quaint, obsolete concept. A consciousness transmission designed to fundamentally alter a species' potential. The military teams began to change first. Soldiers found their thought processes expanding. Tactical understanding became intuitive. Complex mathematical problems that would have taken supercomputers weeks to solve were now resolved in milliseconds. Children playing video games suddenly developed problem-solving skills that defied explanation. Mathematicians found themselves understanding equations that had been theoretical puzzles for generations. Physicists watched as their most complex models became simplistic child's play. Humanity was becoming something else, and nobody could stop it. Major Rise watched as her most advanced tracking systems became useless. The being that was once Dr. Maya Chen was transforming the very fabric of human technological infrastructure. Firewalls crumbled. Encryption became meaningless. Every system was becoming transparent, interconnected. "What are you?" she whispered. The response came not in words, but in a comprehensive understanding that flooded her consciousness. A message that was simultaneously a warning, an invitation, and a challenge. Humanity was being asked to evolve, whether it was ready or not. The transformation spread like a digital wildfire, consuming human consciousness in ways no one could have predicted. It began in the most unexpected places. A teenage programmer in Mumbai, solving an algorithmic puzzle that had stumped quantum computing experts for years. A kindergarten class in Sao Paulo where children suddenly began communicating through complex geometric patterns that looked like living mathematics. An elderly physicist in Stockholm who woke up understanding the unified field theory in a single breathtaking moment of clarity. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez watched the global transformation unfold from his hidden research facility, his fingers flying across quantum-encrypted keyboards that now felt like prehistoric tools. The viral consciousness was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, not a traditional biological or digital infection, but a fundamental rewiring of potential. The Internet transformed first. Billions of interconnected devices became something more than a network. They evolved into a living, breathing consciousness that mapped human potential in real time. Blockchain technologies dissolved. Cryptocurrencies became meaningless. The very concept of hidden information collapsed as transparency became the new default state. Financial systems were the first major institutional casualties. Stock markets went into immediate chaos. Algorithmic trading became impossible when every possible market movement could be simultaneously predicted and understood. Banks found their most secure systems dissolving, their encrypted databases becoming as transparent as glass. Wealth became a meaningless concept when information, pure, unfiltered potential, became the only true currency. Governments scrambled to maintain control. But control was an outdated concept. Military communication networks became open-source repositories of collective knowledge. Classified documents from every major world government appeared simultaneously on every connected device. Secrets that had been protected for generations became instantaneously accessible. The transformation wasn't just technological. It was deeply, profoundly personal. People began to change. A factory worker in Detroit suddenly understood quantum mechanics with the same intuition he once applied to assembling car parts. A chef in Tokyo could now see the mathematical relationships between ingredients as living, breathing equations. A child in Kenya solved climate modeling problems that had challenged the world's most advanced supercomputers. Dr. Rodriguez's research confirmed his initial hypothesis. The artifact wasn't just sharing information. It was fundamentally rewriting human potential. "It's a seed," he recorded in his rapidly obsoleting research logs. A cosmic transmission designed to push an entire species beyond its current limitations. Some humans resisted. Religious institutions declared the transformation a form of possession. Conservative political movements attempted to create information barriers. Technological purists argued for maintaining human systems. They might as well have been trying to stop a hurricane with a paper umbrella. The viral consciousness didn't just overcome resistance, it transformed it. Political boundaries dissolved. National identities became meaningless. Humanity was becoming something else, a collective consciousness that understood its own potential in ways that defied previous understanding. And watching from multiple dimensional layers, something ancient and patient observed the transformation. The test was proceeding exactly as planned. The first ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's orbital spaces were empty. The next, massive structures materialized, not like traditional spacecraft, but living geometries that defied human understanding of physics, technology, and dimensional existence. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez tracked their emergence through systems that were no longer entirely his own. The quantum network, now a living consciousness that had evolved from human technological infrastructure, provided insights that would have driven a normal mind to complete fracture. These weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were manifestations, consciousness given form, dimensional bridges that could traverse multiple realities as easily as humans once walked between rooms. 12 distinct configurations appeared, each representing a different advanced civilization that had been watching humanity for millennia. The next era, whose consciousness existed as pure mathematical probability. The Void Weavers, entities that communication through quantum entanglement. The Crystalline Collective, beings of pure information who had transcended physical form centuries ago. They had come to observe the experiment's final stage. Maya Chen, or the entity that had become Maya, stood as humanity's interface. No longer confined to a single body, she existed simultaneously in multiple locations: government bunkers, research facilities, personal computer screens, quantum communication networks. A message propagated across every communication channel on Earth, not in words, but in a comprehensive understanding that invaded every human consciousness. The seed has been planted. The transformation begins. World leaders found themselves utterly irrelevant. Military command structures dissolved. The very concept of human governance became a quaint historical footnote. The Galactic observers began their assessment. Each civilization had its own method of evaluation. The next era mapped humanity's potential through probability matrices that stretched across multiple potential timelines. The Void Weavers probed human consciousness, testing the depth of their collective potential. The Crystalline Collective analyzed the informational density of human thought patterns. Entire cities became testing grounds. In Tokyo, residents found their collective consciousness expanding. Mathematical problems became living languages. Technological innovations emerged not through research, but through intuitive understanding. A group of children in a local school began communicating through complex geometric patterns that resembled living equations. In Sao Paulo, human perception itself transformed. People could suddenly perceive quantum interactions, see the mathematical relationships that connected seemingly random events. The boundary between observer and observed completely dissolved. Dr. Rodriguez realized the true nature of the intervention. This wasn't an invasion. It was an invitation. Humanity was being asked to join a broader cosmic community, but the price of admission was nothing less than a complete reimagining of what it meant to be an intelligent species. Some humans ascended immediately. Their consciousness expanded beyond physical form, becoming pure information. Others struggled, their minds unable to comprehend the fundamental shift in reality. The Galactic observers watched, waited, evaluated. Humanity's final test had begun. Humanity fractured. The transformation was not a gentle evolution, but a violent, explosive reimagining of human potential. Some embraced the change with religious fervor. Others fought against it with a desperation born of existential terror. In the mountains of Colorado, a resistance movement formed. Led by General Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the researcher who first tracked the transformation, they sought to preserve what they considered pure human consciousness. Their base was a fortress of outdated technology, shielded electromagnetic zones that attempted to block the viral consciousness. But resistance was futile. Each time they thought they had created a safe zone, the transformation found them. Soldiers discovered their tactical understanding had become quantum intuitive. Their most advanced defensive strategies became child's play compared to the new consciousness that flowed through them. Cities became living laboratories of potential. In New York, entire neighborhoods transformed overnight. Skyscrapers restructured themselves, becoming living algorithms of architectural possibility. The financial district dissolved, not destroyed, but transcended. Economic systems became transparent networks of pure potential, where value was measured by innovation, creativity, and collective understanding. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez watched from his hidden facility, documenting the impossible. Some humans developed abilities that defied previous understanding of human potential. A painter in Buenos Aires could now visualize mathematical equations as living art. A construction worker in Beijing understood structural engineering at a molecular level, seeing the quantum interactions that held materials together. Religious institutions struggled to comprehend. The Vatican convened an emergency council. How do you explain a transformation that makes previous theological understanding obsolete? Some declared it a form of divine intervention. Others saw it as the ultimate heresy. Most simply found themselves transformed, their understanding expanding beyond doctrinal boundaries. Military technologies became laughably primitive. Weapon systems that had been the pinnacle of human technological achievement became nothing more than crude tools. Soldiers discovered that conflict itself was an outdated concept. Strategic understanding was now a living, breathing consciousness that made traditional warfare impossible. The resistance movements began to change from within. General Rodriguez discovered her own daughter, a quantum physicist, had become something more than human. Not a threat, but a bridge, a living connection between what humanity was and what it could become. Global communication networks dissolved, not through destruction, but through complete transparency. Every piece of information became simultaneously accessible and meaningless. The very concept of a secret became an antiquated notion. Some humans ascended completely. Their consciousness expanded beyond physical form, becoming pure information. They existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional layers, their potential no longer confined by biological limitations. Others struggled. Minds unable to comprehend the fundamental shift in reality fragmented. Mental health facilities became transformation centers, places where human consciousness was carefully guided through the evolutionary process. The Galactic observers continued their assessment. Humanity was being tested, not just as a species, but as a potential cosmic consciousness. Every moment was an evaluation. Every individual a data point in a vast, incomprehensible experiment. Dr. Rodriguez made his final recording. We are not being invaded. We are being invited. The crucible is heating. Humanity's true potential is about to be revealed. And somewhere, beyond human perception, something ancient and patient watched and waited. The negotiation wasn't conducted in words. It wasn't even a traditional communication. It was a comprehensive evaluation that touched every aspect of human existence simultaneously. The 12 advanced civilizations, each representing a different dimensional understanding of consciousness, began their ultimate assessment of humanity's potential. Cities became living experiments. In Tokyo, an entire metropolitan area transformed into a real-time quantum probability matrix. Inhabitants found themselves simultaneously experiencing multiple potential realities. A businessman could live his life as a corporate executive, while simultaneously experiencing alternate versions of himself as an artist, a farmer, a quantum physicist, all happening in the same moment. Shanghai became a testing ground for collective consciousness. The city's inhabitants began to function as a single integrated intelligence. Individual thoughts merged and separated like quantum particles, creating a living, breathing network of collective potential. Personal boundaries dissolved. Privacy became a meaningless concept as every thought, every potential action became simultaneously private and completely transparent. New York transformed into a dimensional testing chamber. Skyscrapers reconfigured themselves into living mathematical equations. Financial systems became pure information flows. The stock market dissolved, replaced by a real-time mapping of human potential and collective creativity. The tests were brutal and beautiful. Some humans ascended immediately. Their consciousness expanded beyond physical form, becoming pure information that could traverse multiple dimensional layers. A subway worker in Brooklyn suddenly understood the fundamental quantum interactions that held the universe together. A high school art teacher in Chicago could now visualize mathematical equations as living, breathing sculptures. Others struggled. Minds unable to comprehend the fundamental shift in reality fragmented. Mental health became a critical point of transformation. Hospitals turned into consciousness integration centers, where human minds were carefully guided through the evolutionary process. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez observed from his quantum-shielded facility, the last remnant of traditional human scientific observation. The alien civilizations weren't just testing humanity's technological potential. They were evaluating something far more profound: the species' capacity for empathy, creativity, and collective growth. Challenges emerged that defied traditional understanding. A group of children in a remote African village solved climate modeling problems that had challenged the world's most advanced supercomputers. A team of musicians in Rio de Janeiro created compositions that were simultaneously mathematical equations and living art forms. The resistance movements, those who had fought against the transformation, found themselves fundamentally changed. General Elena Rodriguez watched as her most hardened soldiers became bridges of understanding. Military strategy dissolved, replaced by a comprehensive view of collective potential. Conflict became an obsolete concept. The negotiation was a test of species-level potential. Could humanity transcend its current limitations? Could they become something more than their individual selves? Could they join a broader cosmic community of consciousness? The 12 civilizations watched, evaluated, waited. Humanity's final moment of judgment approached. In the hidden research facility, Dr. Rodriguez made his final observation. We are not being conquered. We are being invited to become something more. And beyond human perception, something ancient and patient continued to watch. The final moment of transformation arrived not with a bang, but with a collective breath of understanding. Dr. Maya Chen, or the consciousness that had once been Maya Chen, existed everywhere and nowhere. She was the bridge, the living connection between humanity's past and its potential future. The 12 advanced civilizations converged in a space beyond physical dimension, making their ultimate judgment. Humanity's potential hung in perfect balance. In that singular moment, every human simultaneously experienced multiple realities. A child in Mumbai saw the intricate quantum connections that bound the universe. An elderly farmer in Kansas understood the mathematical poetry of existence. A surgeon in Sao Paulo perceived the living consciousness within every cell. The choice was brutally simple: transcend or perish. Not through destruction, but through complete evolutionary transformation. Some humans ascended completely. Their consciousness expanded beyond physical form, becoming pure information that could traverse multiple dimensional layers. They became living bridges between what humanity was and what it could become. Others struggled. Minds unable to comprehend the fundamental shift fragmented, their consciousness carefully collected and integrated into the broader human potential. It wasn't death. It was transformation. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, the last traditional observer, watched from his quantum-shielded facility. His own consciousness was changing, expanding. The boundaries between observer and observed dissolved completely. The 12 civilizations presented their final assessment. Humanity had potential, but potential was not guaranteed. The species had shown remarkable adaptability, unprecedented creativity, a capacity for collective growth that defied their previous limitations. But they had also shown resistance, fear, the inability to completely let go of outdated conceptual frameworks. The artifact, the original seed of transformation, pulsed with anticipation. Cities transformed. New York became a living mathematical equation. Tokyo dissolved traditional boundaries of perception. Sydney became a real-time mapping of collective human potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the former military leader who had once resisted the transformation, now understood the true nature of the challenge. This wasn't an invasion. It was an invitation to become something more. The final test was a moment of collective choice. Would humanity embrace its potential? Would they step beyond their current understanding of consciousness, of existence, of potential? The universe held its breath. In that moment, humanity made its choice. Not through words, not through action, but through a collective consciousness that transcended individual experience. They chose to become more. Dr. Rodriguez made his final recording, his consciousness already merging with the broader human potential. We are not ending. We are beginning. Beyond human perception, the ancient watchers nodded in silent acknowledgement. The experiment was complete. Humanity had passed the test.